The Girl and the Graft by O.Henry. The other day, I ran across my old friend, Ferguson Posh. Posh is a conscientious grafter of the highest type. His headquarters is the Western Hampshire, and his line of business is anything from speculating in town lots on the Great State Plains to selling wooden toys in Connecticut, made by hydraulic pressure from nutmeg's ground to a pulp. Now and then, when Posh has made a good haul, he comes to New York for a rest. He says the jug of wine and loaf of bread, and though in the wilderness business is about as much rest and pressure to him as sliding down the bumps at Connie would be to President Taft. Give me, said Posh, a big city for my vacation, especially New York. I'm not much fond of New Yorkers, and Manhattan is about the only place on the globe where I don't find any. While in the metropolis, Posh can always be found at one of two places. One is little second-hand bookshop on Fourth Avenue, where he reads books about his hobbies. Mahometannism and taxidermy. I found him at the other his hall bedroom in 18th Street, where he sat in his stocking feet trying to pluck the banks of the Wabash out of a small cedar. For years he has practiced these tunes without arriving near enough to cast the longest trout line to the water's edge. On the desert lay a bruised reel, cost 45 and a tight row of 10s and 20s large enough around to belong to the spring rattlesnake story class. A chambermaid with a room cleaning air flutter nearby in the hall, unable to enter or to flee, scandalized by the sucking feet, arcades at the coast, yet powerless. With her metropolitan instincts, to remove herself beyond the magic influence of the yellow hood roll. I sat on his trunk while Ferguson Posh talked. No one could be franker or more candid in his conversations. Besides his expression, the cries of Henry James for lacteal nourishment at the age of 1 month would have seemed like a childish cryptogram. He told me stories of his profession with pride, for he considered it an art, and I was curious enough to ask him whether he had known any women who follow it. Ladies, said Poach, with Western chivalry. Well, not to any great extent. They don't amount to much in specialized of crafts, because they are so busy in general lines. What? Why, they have to. Who's got the money in the world? The men. Did you ever know a man to give a woman $1 without any consideration? A man will share out his dust to another man free and easy and great. But if he drops a penny in one of the machines run by the Madame Eve's Daughters Amalgamated Associations and the Pineapple Chewing Gum, don't far out when he pulls the lever, you can hear him kick to the superintendent 4 blocks away. Man is the hardest proposition a woman has to go up against. He's the low-grade one, and she has to work overtime to make him pay. 2 times out of 5 she's salted. She can put in crusher and costly machinery. He noticed and be on to the game. They have to pan out what they get, and it hurts their tender hands. Some of them are natural Louis troughs and can carry out $1,000 to the thumb. The dry-eyed ones have to depend on size letters, false hairs, sympathy, the kangaroo walk, cowhide whips, ability to cook, sentimental juries, conversational powers, silk underskirt, ancestry, rubs, enamels letters, violet sachets powders, witnesses, revolvers, pneumatic foams, carbolic acid, moonlight, cold cream, and the evening newspapers. You are outrageous, Flirt, I said. Surely there is none of these grafts, as you call it, in a perfect and harmonious matrimonial union. Well, said Perch, nothing that would justify you every time in calling police headquarters and ordering out the reserve and a wall-to-wall manager on a dead run. But it's this way. For you're a Fifth Avenue millionaire, soaring high on the right side of Cooper and Capper. You come home at night and bring a 9 million diamond brooch to the lady who staked you for a claim. You hand it over. She says, "Oh, Josh," and looks to see if it's back. She comes up and kisses you. You've waited for it. You get it. All right, it's Graft. But I'm telling you about Artemisia Blind. She was from Kansas, and she suggested corn in all of its phrases. Her hair was as yellow as the silk. Her form was as tall and graceful as a stalk in the low grounds during a wet summer. Her eyes were as big and startling as bunions, and green was her favorite color. On my last trip into the cool recesses of your sequestered city, I met a human named Warcross. He was worth, that is, he had 1 million. He told me he was in business on the street. A sidewalk merchant? Say I, sarcastic. Exactly, said he, senior partner of a paving concern. I kind of took to him. For this reason, I met him on Broadway one night when I was out of heart, luck, tobacco, and praise. He was all silk hat, diamonds, and front. He was all front. If you had gone behind him, you would have only looked yourself in the face. I looked like a cross between Count Tolstoy and a June lobster. I was out of luck. I had, but let me lay my eyes on that deal again. Cross stopped and talked to me a few minutes, and then he took me to a high-tone restaurant to eat dinner. There was music, and then some Beethoven and borderless sauce, and cursing in French, and frankenpacking, and some halter and cigarettes. When I am fresh, I know them places. I declare, I must have looked as bad as magazines artists sitting there without any money and my hair all rumpled like I was booked to read a chapter from Elsie's school days at a Brooklyn Bowman smoker. But Redcross treated me like a bear hunter's guide. He wasn't afraid of hurting the waiter's feeling. "Mr. Perch," he explained to me, "I am using you." "Go on," say I hope you don't wake up." And then he tells me, you know the kind of man he was. He was a New Yorker. His whole ambition was to be noticed. He wanted to be conspicuous. He wanted people to point him out and bow to him and tell others who he was. He said it had been the desire of his life always. He didn't have but 1 million, so he couldn't attract attention by spending money. He said he tried to get into public notice one time by planting a little public square on the east side with garlic for free use of the poor. Carnegie heard of it and covered it over at once with a library in the Gaelic language. 3 times he had jumped in the way of automobiles, but the only result was 5 broken ribs and a notice in the papers that an unknown man, with 4 amalgam filled teeth, supposed to be the last of the famous Red Railway gang, had been run over. "Ever tried the reporters?" I asked him. Last month, says Mr. Van Cross, my expenditure of lunches to reporters was $124.80. Get anything out of that? I asked. That remind me, says he. Add $8.50 for pepsins. Yes, I got indigestions. How am I supposed to push along your scramble for prominence? I requires. Contrasts. Something of that sort tonight, says Bancroft. It grieves me, but I am forced to resort to eccentricity. And here he drops his napkin in his soup and rises up and bows to a gent who is devastating a potato under a palm across the room. The police commissioner, says my Crambers, gratified. Friend, say I in a hurry. Have ambitions but don't kick run off your ladder. When you use me as a stepping stone to salute the police, you spoil my appetite on the grounds that I may be degraded and incriminated. Be thoughtful. At the Quaker City Square in Crossroad, the idea about Artemisia blind comes to me. Suppose I can manage to get you in the papers, say I, a column or two every day in all of them, and your pictures in most of them for a week. How much would it be worth to you? $10,000, says Vancross, warm in a minute. But no murder, says he, and I won't wear pink pants at a cotillion. I wouldn't ask you to, says I. This is honorable, stylish, and uneffeminate. Tell the waiter to bring a demi-tasse and some other beans, and I will discuss to you to opus morandi. We crossed the deal an hour later in the Rococo Lounge at Noyes Room. I telegraphed that night to Miss Artemisia in Salina. She took a couple of photographs and an autograph letter to an elder in a First Presbyterian church in the morning and got some transportation and $80. She stopped in Topeka long enough to trade a flashlight interior and a volunteer to the vice president of a trust company for a mileage book and a package of $5 notes with $250 score on the band. The fifth evening after she got my wire, she was waiting, all decorated and dressed up, for me and Records to take her to dinner in one of these New York feminine apartment houses where a man can't get in unless he plays beads and smokes depilately powdered cigarettes. She's a stunner, says Vancross when he saw her. They give her a two-column couture. This was the scheme the three of us concocted. It was business straight through. One course was to rush Miss Bry with all the style and display and emotion he could for a month. Of course, that amounted to nothing as far as his ambitions were concerned. The sight of a man in a white tie and patient leather bumps pouring greenbacks through the large end of a cornucopia to purchase no treatment and has ceased for tall. Willowy blondes in New York is as common a size as blue turtles in delirium tremens. But he was to write her love letter. The worst kinds of love letter, such as your wife publishes after you are dead every day. At the end of the month, he was to drop her and she would bring suits for $100,000 for breach of promise. Miss Artemisia was to get $10,000. If she won the suit, that was all, and if she lost, she was to get it anyhow. There was a signed contract to the effect. Sometimes they had me out with them, but not often. I couldn't keep up to their style, She used to pull out his notes and criticize them like bills of lading. Say you, she said. What do you call this letter to a hardware merchant from his nephew on learning that his aunt has netterage? You Eastern duffer know as much about writing love letters as a Kansas grasshopper does about tugboats. My dear Miss Blythe, wouldn't that put pink icing and a little red sugar bird on your Byron cake? How long do you expect to hold an audience in a courtroom with that kind of stuff? You want to get down to business and call me Tweedlum's babe and honeysuckled and sign yourself Mama's own big bad pucky wacky boy. If you want any limelight to concentrate upon your sparse gray hairs, get sappy. After that, Wycross dipped his pen in the indelible Tabasco. His nose read like something or other in the original. I could see a jury sitting up and women tearing one another's hats to hear him read. And I could see piling up from Mr. Wycross as much notoriousness as Archbishop Cranmer or the Brooklyn Bridge or cheese naan salad ever enjoyed. He seemed mighty pleased at the prospects. They agreed on a night, and I stood on Fifth Avenue outside a Soul restaurant and watched them. A process server walked in and handed Wycross the papers at his table. Everybody looked at him, and he looked as proud as Cicero. I went back to my room and lit a 5-cent cigar, for I knew that $10,000 was as good as ours. About 2 hours later, somebody knocked at my door. There stood Wycross and Miss Artemisia, and she was clinging, yes, sir, clinging to his arm. And they tells me they've been out and got married. And they articulated some trivial cadences about love and such. And they let down a bundle on the table and said, "Good night," and left. And that's why I say, concluded Ferguson Perch, that a woman is too busy occupied with her natural vocations and instinct of crafts, such as is given her for self-preservation and amusement, to make any great success in special lines. What was in the bundle that they left? I asked, with my usual curiosity. Why, said Ferguson, there was a scrapper's railroad ticket as far as Kansas City and 2 pairs of Mr. Wycross old pants.